Well, thank you so much for taking the time to answer a few questions today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
So today I know that you do a lot on, making your home more inviting and more safe as well, but that you can also give some tips on how to do that on a budget. So I would love it if you could answer a few questions for me.
Happy to do so.
What do you think is the best thing, the best approach to making your home feel warm and inviting and safe without spending a fortune?
Well, the biggest issue that we have today in North America is slips and falls, and the biggest culprit are stairs and steps. So when we look at the interior as well as the exterior of our home, looking for safe and affordable solutions has become key. As a designer, it's the most difficult challenge I face. So when I'm working with homeowners now, I'm delighted to be able to say that Lowe's has designed a custom ramp solution that's so innovative because you don't have to do all the prep work that you used to have to do and hire the contractor to pour concrete and maybe lose your sidewalk or a flower bed that you loved. With this new system, which is modular and independent and levels itself and does all those wonderful things without having to dig up the lawn, you can configure and shape it so that it can move in any direction your house needs it to be placed. So you can do this online with the online tool at lowes.com/ramps with an S, or you can have an in-home consultant come and work with you and help you design it to make sure you're getting exactly what you need, but only what you need, and keep it within budget. The other nice thing about this, it's a very simple installation, whether you do it yourself or you do use the installation team. You're going to find that you can get it done in a day, and it doesn't cost what it used to, again, with all of this pre-construction. The nice thing about curb appeal and really making the most valuable asset we have, our home, look even better is to add all the accents of flower beds and custom gardens and accents of lighting. But the nice thing with the modular system, the way it's been designed, you can pick out colors and railings and really make it something that complements your home. So again, it's got that great curb appeal. It's exactly what you want. It's a modification to your home that will last for the lifespan needs of your family, from little toddlers to great grandma when she comes for a visit.
Wow, that is great. I know one of the things, we have an issue at our house. We live in a very old home, it's over 100 years old, and we have teenage daughters, so this hasn't been an issue for us up until this point, but we are in the process of adopting 2 little girls who will be between the ages of 4 to 6. And our bedrooms on the 2nd floor all have windows that go floor to ceiling. Do you have any suggestions of ways to make them safer, or do you suggest we replace windows, or what do you think is going to be the best safe, cost-efficient solution for our family?
Well, we've just mentioned the whole cost range. So replacement is always going to be the most expensive thing, but what you can do with the placement of furnishings within the room can make it so much safer. So blocking open window spaces, if you will, changing the headboard and the placement of the bed so that the window becomes a backdrop and that you can have curtains and shutters and blinds. And that way, on an affordable budget, you can determine at what price point you want to make those adjustments.
Wow, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Another thing that we have seen in our household, and I think this has to do with being an older house, is issues with walls and plaster and things like that. As things need to be replaced, we're trying to replace things with newer materials, but what do you suggest for old basement walls that may be cracking or leaking or that may not be as safe as they could be? Do you have any suggestions for those?
Again, the quickest and most affordable way is to simply block those walls. So sometimes we can do that with windscreens and shades, taking something as simple as a window shade, installing it on your ceiling floorboard underside, and then being able just to pull that down and keep curious little eyes and hands out of the way. Placing things around the basement, again, new furniture configurations that keep people away from the areas where you don't want them to be.
Great, that's also very helpful. Another question I have for you is, what do you have as far as suggestions for storing clutter or keeping things that are a little dangerous out of the reach of little hands?
One of the best things you can do is to add pull-out shelving to existing closets and cupboards. It sounds like it might be counterintuitive, but when you actually are able to get to what's at the back of the shelf, you find that you're able to create storage options that make more sense. So this way you have the things you need most frequently at the front, and then to the middle, the things less frequent, and in the far places, in the corners that normally would be dark and inaccessible, you now can manage to reach that storage area as well. You'll find with pull-out storage and using storage bins that you can stack, you're going to get more use out of your existing storage space, and you'll have far more closet space than you ever realized you had before.
You've mentioned closet space, and that is something we have very little of.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend for expanding storage space? Our current house has no coat closet. Basically, we have very little closets, and all of our closets are little, tiny. One of them just has a regular single door and is about 2 feet deep. So some of our closets are tinier than you would expect. What do you have as far as suggestions for expanding storage into other areas of your home when you don't have the closet space you need?
Well, one of the easiest fixes is to go back outside and realize that by putting in planter boxes that we can have storage underneath, we can put seasonal things there or sports things and toys, our boots, our umbrellas. We don't need to bring them into the house where we don't have enough space. And of course, you don't want to bring wet things into a house and create a hazard on your floors. So looking at how you can create outside storage is one way to start. And then again, when you go into the house, looking at going vertical and making sure that you have all sorts of hanging options, taking things out of cupboards and closets that are wasting space, and even making them decorative elements. So putting up all sorts of hooks and hanging your collection of baseball caps, now suddenly you have some wall art instead of a wasted closet.
Well, that's brilliant. I never even thought about taking storage outside, but that would provide a lot of answers, because a lot of the things that we need to store are things like boots, umbrellas, things that I necessarily don't want dripping all over my floor when they come in the house, and that probably doesn't make things safe to have a nice wet slippery floor when you first walk in either.
Well, and now we have so many options that are weatherproof materials and recycled materials, so it's good for the environment, it's good for our household, especially if it's expanding, and it makes, as you say, better use of the space that we do have on the interior of our house.
All right, my last question for you is, if you had a $500 budget and could do one thing to improve a house, where do you think that money would be best spent?
I would make sure that I had at least one threshold that was accessible. So if I could put in a little portable ramp, that might be something that we keep in all year round. And then I would make sure that I had adequate lighting on the pathway that led to at least one bathroom and one sleeping area. And I would try and make sure that all of my flooring was nice and safe, and it might mean getting rid of some treasured little scatter rugs and things that we might have liked for a long time, but they just don't serve us when it comes to safety and usability of our homes. But I'd also recommend that you take that budget. It's a lot of money and you want to spend it well. If you go to Lowe's.com and you look at the accessible home suggestions, and if you go to Lowe's.com/ramps with an S, you can look at those upgrades that'll modify your home and make it more usable for a whole lifespan of family members and friends.
Great. One last question that just touched on what you said about lighting to bathrooms and to sleeping areas. Do you recommend using a floor lighting, or do you recommend using, what kind of lighting would you recommend for those areas?
Well, you want to be safe. With young children, you don't want them to be able to pull a lamp down and hurt themselves when they're at play or innocently just moving things about in their room. So you want to look at a variety of lighting and what we call task lighting. So sometimes it might be a small lamp that we put on top of a dresser or a floor lamp. And you can make a floor lamp safer by putting a chair in front of it, so it's not something that's easily accessible and can be knocked over, especially by young children or the family pets. And if you just start looking at tasks, and then you can create a form and function design at any price point.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Patricia, for your time. We really appreciate you talking to us today.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.